Welcome to the Night Before Reset, a classic TBC and Classic Plus podcast where we basically just try and talk about anything because we get very little news. So the same applies today as it did last week. Well, sorry, we missed last week because there really was absolutely nothing to talk about. And today I'm joined by Hammer and Tello. Welcome back, boys. Hammer, how you doing?
Good. I'm doing good. Still just raid logging TBC. I've been messing around on hardcore quite a bit. I've kind of I've rekindled my love for hardcore, so I'm enjoying that. I'm just leveling over on Doomhal and on Skull Rock. I got a couple of characters going on there, and kind of just hanging in. I'm in the full-blown Classic Plus waiting room.
Same. Tello?
I'm chilling, man. Just playing the TBC raids as usual. I've been re-hitting the farms. I've been back in Mana Tombs for the past 2 nights, doing 10 Mana Tombs a day. I'm limiting myself again, so I'm pretty exhausted with that. And I used to do more than that, but outside of just farming and raid logging, on the Paladin, and just doing arena here and there, there's really nothing else I've been doing on TBC outside of just the same thing like you guys, just playing the game, having fun whenever raid days come, and just honestly at this point, it really just feels like it's a phase 3 waiting room for me. I'm just ready to get to the next phase.
Yeah, cool. And pretty much the same here. Yeah, literally I'm still raiding on 2 characters and trying to find any reason to log on to the game outside of just raiding. So I am just full-blown raid logging. I log on for practically nothing outside of the 2 different days a week, just to go and do SSC and TK. But I have been, as anyone who watches me on Kick, kick.com/Scottejaye, you would have seen me playing some Wrath of the Lich King. We'll pretend that it's on retail, but it's absolutely not. So yeah, if you're struggling like we are, though, I'm going to bring this up right at the start because I do think there's a lot of people like us at the moment out there that really want to play TBC, but ultimately from phase 1 to phase 2, we've just traded one set of raids for another set of raids. There's still nothing to do really outside of farm gold and raid. Or not really. There's not much incentive to do a great deal else because most of us are just in a Classic Plus waiting room. So I think the news that you brought up, Hammer, do you want to talk through it, and I'll put it on screen what Guzu and Joker are doing and that with Season of Discovery?
Yeah. Let me pull it up.
This could give people like something to do, something cool.
Absolutely. So starting on June 19th. You have Guzu, Savix, Joker, Sun Glitters, and LMGD. They're all starting like a sod fresh. We should link the description, this in the description, Scotty, because each of their guilds I know is following, like a different rule set. I think Guzu's guild might be like a self-found, like a guild found type of deal, whereas Joker's has like almost no rules at all. So there's like multiple different ways that you could play this if you are. It is on EU though. It's not in NA. There is actually still a sod fresh going on in NA though. So if you are NA and want to play sod, absolutely go for it. But yeah, this is just something cool, like a community event. It's not an official fresh sod server. As much as I wish that, Blizzard did do that, like a fresh sod right now, it actually hit pretty hard. It's a community run event, right? So you could jump in and just play, and I'm sure it'll last for at least a few months and give you some good fun if you like sod.
Oh, hang on 1 sec. Something just happened there. Why did all the cameras go off?
Uh-oh.
No, it's all right. It all then came back on. I don't actually know why that went. Sorry, just go from. I'll make it work. Don't worry, I'll make it work.
You sure?
It should have captured. Yeah, it should have captured all the audio. That should be fine.
Yep.
That was weird. Literally, just all my screens went off and all the cameras went off at the same time. Cool. All right. I'll go just for a second. I wouldn't normally bring something like this up at the start, but I do think, on the basis so many people are like just scratching around for any version of the game to play, I think it's cool. I think it's cool when, people put up these events. Same with, when hardcore, before there was official hardcore servers, when events were kicking off like that. Tello, you got any thoughts around this?
I mean, at my core, at my heart, and I think my very soul, because it means a lot to me, I love Season of Discovery. I think, to me, Season of Discovery was one of the greatest iterations of World of Warcraft that we had possibly ever. If not, it was the greatest iteration of World of Warcraft we had in a very long time. People will say what they want, whether they didn't, like SOD because it followed maybe retail-like elements with bringing in TBC, RAF-style talents, maybe different unique ideas. at least it was new stuff in Azeroth. And I commend any creator that is playing Season of Discovery still, that wants SOD to still be alive and thrive for the good. And I think it's the best thing that happens is when creators take it upon themselves to lead by example and show people that you don't need the developers and a boardroom full of, members working on a game actively in order to keep something alive and thriving. And I think communities show that time and time again from multiple genres. Seeing Season of Discovery and people play it right now kind of reminds me, in a weird sense, I know this is completely off topic, but how I used to view the fighting game scene with Melee, with Smash, where Nintendo Japan, they would never look at Smash Melee and say, hey, we should bring this to EVO one day. And then these guys forced it to go to EVO, a big live event, because people were passionate about Melee and Smash. It's the same thing about SOD. Like, you see these big creators, you don't need to be doing this right now. This is something you don't need to do. But they want to do it anyways because they're passionate and they love Season of Discovery and they want to play something that is different. Just like we were talking about before, what are we really doing? We're just logging on TBC.
Yeah.
That's all we're doing. But at least with SOD people, they're trying something fun again.
Yeah.
And I can respect that.
I think a big part of it, Tello, is that I think mostly everyone was waiting for Anniversary to move into TBC. And I think that spark of like enjoyment from TBC fizzled out a lot quicker than most people thought it was going to be completely honest. And that's why you're seeing Hardcore and Season of Discovery like all starting to bloom right now. Because everyone's, like Scotty said, just trying to find some version of WoW to play right now. Because like trying to sink into like, there's no like permanent version of Classic right now for anyone to play, especially while everyone's now waiting for Classic Plus, right? So I think people are just like looking for ways to just pass the time and have fun until BlizzCon.
Well, there's two things on that as well. Like firstly, there has been thank you, Go. There has been some minor sort of Blizzard support with this SOD project as well, because I saw Agron say about it on a Discord that they've put an NPC in to be able to turn XP off.
Yeah.
On Season of Discovery as well. I mean, it was bugged and weren't working. Every time you logged out, you had to activate it again or something. But I think that was all really for this event, which is cool. And then the other thing is just to slag Blizzard off, say, well done for doing that for SOD, but then just to go the complete other way is the problem. I want to play TBC. I want that. I want to play TBC. I want more alts. I want more alts to raid on. But because the leveling is so painfully slow and the gold situation is so ridiculous, there's so many deterrents to actually sink loads of time into TBC. If Blizzard were actually to look at Anniversary as what it is, which should really be what you said, Hammer, a bit of a gap filler between having nothing and them being in Classic Plus, they should make the version of the game fun. They should add, joyous journeys. And I don't mean 50%. I mean 150%. They should add, they should do things to actually make the game fun and encourage people to play alts. Whereas at the moment, it's just, like I say, raid logging on 2 characters is expensive enough. And, I don't want to have to log on and farm gold. And I do want other characters. I'd like a rogue, but I can't be bothered to level one because it just takes so long. And then when I get to max level, that's even more gold that's got to be farmed every week, to actually be able to do anything on it. So I do think if Blizzard want to give us something to do, they really haven't got to look far. Yeah. Thoughts on that?
No, I completely agree with that. As far as TBC goes, I'd love to see something to make it a little bit more fun. But outside of that, even things like okay, so this Season of Discovery event's going on at this point. I don't understand why, in my opinion, it's not that complicated and not that hard. I don't know why they don't fully support these big streamers with these events. Because at the end of the day, Classic WoW, the hype and how many people are playing it is controlled completely by like streamers and YouTube. And it really makes a massive difference and can encourage tens of thousands of people to play a specific version of the game. I don't see why they don't fully support things like this and actually just like drop them a fresh server. You know what I'm saying? For events like, I think that would pull so many people in. Like if this event was happening on NA and Blizzard actually dropped like a fresh server and was like, here's just a fresh SOD. Everything's unlocked. There's no phase locking. Play it how you want, and, go until Classic Plus, BlizzCon, whatever. I would be all aboard on that. Me personally, I'm just a little bit
Yeah, and
burnt
it'd be
out.
awesome
Yeah.
if there was no room vendor as well. It would be awesome if they went, here's a fresh server. Yeah, 1 to 60, it's all there. But, you know, all of them things that came in where it made it ridiculously, not ridiculously easy, but, you know, you create a level 1 and you can buy all your rooms straight away.
Right.
It would be cool if it was a fresh server where you still need to actually go and
Yeah, that'd
get
be
the
sick.
rooms, at least for a couple of months, you know, and then add the vendor, you know, because obviously once people have done it once. But there'll be a lot of people that didn't play SOD.
Yeah.
Or they missed certain phases where they would go back and play it if it was in some sort of official capacity. I do think you are. I agree with what you're saying. You know, in terms of influencers and content creators and all that. You know, if Blizzard was to actually do a fresh server, and it was because of the streamers and that wanting to do this event, it would get far more people than just the streamers doing their own version of fresh. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, it'd be huge. I mean, Blizzard would make money off of it too. You know, it's not like a loss for them. So I don't know why they don't do stuff like that. I feel like these events pop off all the time, and if they were officially supported by Blizzard like that, I think they would do even better and they would last longer.
I think as far as like them wanting to do it, it's a battle between like their wants and their needs. Because I think when it comes to like the developers, like for example like Agron and them, right? I think they want to do more stuff. Like there's never like a situation where them as devs were like they don't want to do more stuff. Even during Season of Discovery's development, they wanted to add more like phases. I bet you they did. I bet you they wanted to go crazier with the content and deliver more quest lines. And even like I think for example the Ashbringer quest line in itself is just a passion project of them showing that they have the skills to do something really sick, even for every class if they wanted to do it. But I think that's where like the needs parts come into play from Blizzard's needs, because it's now the developers versus the marketers and the shareholders and the business aspect of things. Does it make sense for us as a business to open up something for a potential streamer realm that might get us a portion of a margin of a boost increase during this quarter of the year? Is it worth taking that risk? Even though it's not really a big risk, it's kind of a win-win no matter what, because it's just free money. You know, people are going to resub back to your game, play because their favorite streamer is going to play. But at the same time, I think also they're probably looking at the steady flow of the chart and saying, well, TBC is, striving along. We have the end of MOP right now. That's striving along. Retail's doing pretty good. We still have people playing our hardcore servers, or they're resubbing or not. Even if people are canceling our subs, it doesn't matter. At this point, we have a steady line, so we don't see the demand as high as we want it yet before we consider that a thing. It's not like, for example, during the 2016, 2017 days when we were like, oh my God, we wish we can go back to vanilla, and then 2019, boom, COVID happened, boom.
Yeah.
So I think there needs to be a serious, super serious demand. The level of hype needs to be to that level where they cave in and they go like, you know what? It's no longer a you think you do but you don't situation. It's you do want it and we're going to give it to you. I just don't think we're there yet. Even though I'm excited for the EU stuff for SOD, the hype needs to go higher. It needs to like break the roof is what I'm trying to say, for them to like be like, you know what? We're doing a complete wave of SOD fresh realms, and we're really excited for you guys to jump back into SOD again if that's what they really wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is as well is that while it would be great to get a fresh realm, just looking at it from the other perspective, even if you think about how many times they've now done vanilla, how many times they've done CVC, they're never pain free, even when they do a fresh server. True. Even like Thekel and stuff. So what they're going to do is they would do an official fresh server, but because it is now official, it is now on them. If anything's wrong, if anything's bugged, now that's taking resources away from what we know they're working on, which is probably why they don't want to do anything in any classic version of the game. They probably look at MOP as a distraction. They'll look at Anniversary probably as a distraction. And that's why when you say they wanted to do more, they would have done another 3 or 4 phases. I reckon the thing that stopped them doing it was the fact that they already knew that they was working on something that's going to be bigger.
True. I agree.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But anyway, we spoke about that far longer than I wanted to. I will, as Hammer said, I'll put a link in the description and everything anyway to, where you can sign up for the project and go and play some Season of Discovery if you want to.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. News. Let's go straight onto the big one, because in my opinion, it is the big one, and it's more cease and desists. in particular Ascension, which Ascension is massive. Ascension's been around for ages. People even on Twitch and on Kick, people even use the Ascension deck building category. So it's almost got like it's a private server that's sort of adopted its own category on Twitch and stuff. Like, we're talking a huge server that's been around for years and years and years, and they look like they're now going down along with obviously Total WoW, Stormforge even, which Stormforge that's a sort of umbrella of servers that I've played on for years. I've played a couple of MOP servers on Stormforge, a couple of RAF servers on Stormforge, So these are all the big names. Whilst there is still one that's surprisingly still standing, but I'd say this is the last of the big ones. What do you think, Tello?
I mean, I'll tell you what, man. I want to like come off like this first, just real quick. I am a supporter personally of private servers in the sense that I respect developers that look at what Blizzard back in the OG days used to be, like back when Blizzard North was around, back when you had the minds of like Kaplan there and Metzen and Kevin Jordan and John Statz, like the OG guys, and taking that vision and trying to give something people knew that was similar to Blizzard as an overall product, because that's what Ascension did. It didn't just even look at WoW, it looked at like stuff like Diablo 2, Diablo 1, and like looked at how class fantasy was built there, and it combined it into this nutshell of like what you saw what Ascension was, like so many different classes, multiple tree selections, high risk mode, mythic pluses, all these different variations of like custom events or custom modes that they had. And I thought it was really cool, don't get me wrong, but in terms of what we saw now and what's the I don't even know the saying at this point, but basically the back door has been unfolded, and or the curtains have opened for Project Ascension, and now we see what was really going on. And to be honest, for me, man, there's really no defending them. It's not like Turtle WoW, where Turtle WoW obviously they had their lawsuit, they had their issues. They decided to cave in at that point. They didn't want no more smoke with Blizzard, and they were dealing with everything through their lawsuit. And then you look at this, and none of these guys that everyone said was in Russia and all this stuff, they weren't there. They're all in the U.S. Every single one of them, except like one guy in Australia. And I think the biggest one for them is that the reason why I can't defend Ascension is because I quit like a couple months after, because I saw how egregious their practices were with their monetization. And a lot of the stuff that you saw in the game was copies and forms, and not saying that they didn't have custom events, because of course they did. The devs did their own stuff, but they copied so many things from retail. There was collections of retail transmogs from MOP, from multiple different versions of the game, ideas that they even took from, we talk about the profession system, right? Back, I think in a couple episodes ago, where I was like, oh, you could change your items to of the owl, of the bear, and all that stuff, reforge your gear. Well, guess what else had reforge in Blizzard? Diablo. You can reforge your gear in freaking Diablo games back in the day. It's no different, but then putting a custom idea into World of Warcraft that obviously Classic didn't have. TLDR, I just think when you're tied to Russian-based ASA groups that the U.S. Department of Treasury has came after in 2025 for cyber criminal activity, and then one of your main developers, Dustin, is living in a $5 million mansion off of the blind nostalgia from the classic WoW crowd that are obviously hungry for a new classic experience because they feel that they're burnt from Blizzard. I just think they just got what was coming from to them. Everything that they asked for, they dug their own grave, with all due respect. I'm not trying to be a douchebag here, but you guys were the ones who were promoting Google AdSense, Project Ascension, 14,000 new classes. Your mage can wipe his ass with this as well, with a warrior blade. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, all jokes aside, this was on them. They asked for it. They put themselves in the position. And listen, when you have two companies in America that are empty offices, and nobody's working there, just saying, that's on you guys.
Yeah.
Not Blizzard.
Ascension, was this the server where you were able to like physically
Bronzebeard, remember?
buy? Yeah. Were you able to buy like cap level professions? And was that the one? Was it Ascension where you were doing that?
Yeah, dude, you could buy your professions.
I remember that. Yeah.
You can.
It was
also
heavy
buy
monetization for sure.
It was heavy monetization all across the board. Buy your monetization. You could buy your Hearthstones in every zone in Azeroth. I'm talking every zone. Imagine buying a Hearthstone for Elwyn Forest to Redridge.
That's
like
crazy. Yeah.
that close. You can then buy, back in the day, Scotty, you might know this. You guys both might know this as well, and even the audience. Do you know Blizzard used to originally do the friend program, where if
Yeah,
you
recruit a
signed up,
friend.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
recruit a friend program? Yes, remember? They had it here too, and then you get an XP buff with your friend if you bought that for like a certain amount of X amount of time. So they had that in in Project Ascension as well. And yes, they have multiple different servers. Everybody of the private server community will try to defend it tooth and nail, saying no, but if you only lived on this server, you couldn't access this, this, and that. It doesn't matter. I think all these private server Andes, the reason why I don't respect what Ascension did is because these actors behind it were acting on ill will intent. They weren't acting upon the, oh my God, we're trying to, change the wheel and we're trying to represent what the OG Blizzard developers did with the passion back in the early 2000s. No, these guys had it out for your money, bro.
Yeah.
And if you don't think that, go read the court listener. They're working with bulletproof servers associated with a case that the United States has tackled against a Russian group based on malware, selling your user data, accessing your privatized information, your credit cards, your names. Like, this is stuff that they can get from you from like an IT point of view. Like, this is bad. This is really bad. Why would I trust these guys with anything? So with all due respect, I might get hate for this and maybe make a villain out of me. I don't care. I'm happy they got cut down because you deserved it. You asked for it. You dug your own grave. Get packed.
See, I played on Ascension years ago. Where I didn't like it. I'll be completely honest with you. This is why, like, I've not really got I've got no stake in this whatsoever. You know, whether they shut down, whether they weren't, it weren't a server that I would ever play on. Just because when I did try it years ago, when Zach, actually a guy that most people around me know at least, he told me to try it. It's great. That was when, I don't know if they've still got the same kind of server outside of Bronzebeard, but where you could be a mage, but you could get Holy Light, you could get, you could like it was. Yeah, you could
Yeah, that's
collect
in there.
abilities and you could re-roll them and all of that. And I remember then, I'm pretty sure, like, if you was unlucky, like, you could buy something to be able to re-roll your abilities and all of that. Like, even in the very early days of Ascension, like, the goal was quite clearly to make as much money as physically possible, rather than, I don't know how heavily monetized Turtle WoW was. Again, I've never been a vanilla fanboy, like, never. So, like, vanilla sort of private servers would never have been something that I spent any time on. But Turtle WoW at least seemed, from the outside looking in, to be a bit closer to what you was saying, that they aren't Tello. You know what I mean?
Oh,
That Turtle
dude.
WoW are at least just trying to make an authentic experience.
Oh, dude, 1,000%. Me and Hammer, we both played Turtle WoW. And I'm one to admit it. Me and Hammer probably had one of the best time in our WoW
Oh yeah.
experiences of just having a genuine good time, looking forward to going to the new zones. We had developers that were coming over to us and just flinging us across the map. I think one developer, like, he was just messing around with us in Turtle WoW. What I'm getting at is there was a sense of clear passion community there
Yeah.
that loved the core aspects of vanilla, and they wanted to give you that Lord of the Rings feeling when you first watched it in the movie theaters for the very first time when you played Turtle WoW. That's the closest to what Classic Plus was ever I've ever experienced in my life, and it was a gem. Very short lived though. We
Yeah.
couldn't live that experience. It was a short. I remember me and Harry go like, and I was like, "What the fuck just happened, bro?"
Dude.
We thought we made it to freedom. I thought we were in Vinland Saga. It was like peace and happiness,
Yeah.
but it wasn't, and it wound up becoming a nightmare, sadly. But yes, that was the closest it ever was. And you were right, Scotty. Like, there was so much monetization in that version of the game, and the fact that, a lot of their private server Andes, they defend that game tooth and nail because, of course. And here's the thing where, like, I feel bad for them in a sense because I understand their pain. Being burnt by Blizzard all those years, you going through Classic, through retail, and not getting the expansions you want. Maybe you think political ideologies are coming into play. I don't care about the personal stuff, but I get it. And then you try to find something new, and now you call it home, and now it's being taken away from you. I represent and understand that pain, but at the same time, you have to understand and remove the classic blindfolds away from your eye for one damn second and read the damn court listener. Look at what these guys were doing. They clearly did not care about you as the player. It all meant about how much bank they were rolling in.
Oh yeah.
Dude, sit in a $5 million mansion, bro. off of people's nostalgia.
And
And not saying, you know, what I mean, not saying Blizzard's not allowed to do that, but that's their IP. That's their stuff. Just
Yeah,
saying.
absolutely.
You know?
yeah, and Turtle WoW was monetized as well, but it was like a fraction of what Bronzebeard felt like. Like Turtle WoW,
Yeah.
I would say it had like 5% of the monetization that was in Ascension. I'm pretty sure in Ascension, I didn't really mess with it for too long. But I felt like every single aspect of the game was able to be bought. And I was like immediately like turned off by it. And I'm no stranger. Like I'll spend money on a game if I love it. But it was, yeah, it felt a little corrupt to me, to be completely honest. And there wasn't that sense of community that I think Turtle WoW had.
I think ultimately, when it comes to any private server, you know, having played on many over the years, you've got to go into them like, you know, all the people that would have been disappointed that Turtle WoW shut down, all the people that are going to be disappointed that Bronzebeard Ascension in general is inevitably going to be gone as well. You kind of go on there knowing that day can come at any time. You know, I feel
Absolutely.
no attachment when people say about how much time I used to sink and at the moment, to be fair as well, sink time into characters on private servers. I could delete them right now. I could literally log on my paladin that I'm currently playing on a place I shall not name, and I could delete it. I feel nothing for it. I'm playing it for fun, you know, knowing full well that a cease and desist could go there tomorrow and all my characters are gone. You know, I think these people that play on private servers and get too in deep, like surely they know.
Yeah.
No,
You
yeah,
would
for
think.
sure. I agree with you. And I just think I've even seen creators like there was one creator I saw on YouTube like he raided nonstop and then he deleted all his characters for a video. It was actually a really good video that he did. But he even showed that like it wasn't about the characters themselves. It was just about the memories and the moments, like you're explaining, Scotty. Like you just going through that journey with your friends and having those little late night sessions. Like who cares if this gets shut down? You're just having the fun of the thrill of it because it's a good vibe with your boys, you know, and whoever you're playing with. So I love that and I respect that. And I think that's why I even loved Bronzebeard at the start, because it wasn't about, oh my God, like, you know, we're going into another classic experience or there's new stuff, yada, yada, yada. It's that hype factor waiting on that GameStop style line when you know something exciting is going through the door and we're all like a hive mind. We are all connected and we know something is better, you know, beyond the door, even if it's temporary. And unfortunately, as time went on, we got to see the fat show when it comes to Bronzebeard. And like I said, I just think people really need to, for once, understand that, yes, has Blizzard messed up in the past? Are they the big bad wolf to a lot of people? Surely, for sure. I get it. It's not perfect. Blizzard's far from this amazing company of what they once were. But at the same time, they're not doing anything what Ascension is doing right now currently to their user base with their data, leaking it to potential Russian malware groups, just sucking them dry for every piece of nostalgia that they have left. I'm just trying to say that these guys genuinely did not care about you. And if you can't see that because you're so blinded by the hate train of Blizzard, you have to accept something going on with you personally. And the reason why I feel like people are connected is because probably these people swiped on Bronzebeard too. They swiped on Ascension. So their money, and now they're connected because of their credit card. They're connected because of their value, because they feel like they own the part of the game. And now, you know, Blizzard's showing that you don't own nothing, because these developers didn't own nothing to begin with. They reversed engineered the packets and the coding of the game. And they didn't have nothing original to themselves. They were stealing it by the days, by the week, to really call it their own game. And people said for years they'll never get touched, and here we are.
Here we are.
Yeah. So, all right, the serious question, or the big question, I should say, why now? What do we really think this has done for our own opinions on a timeline for Classic Plus? You know, what do we think? Why now? You know, if like people are saying, oh, Classic Plus is still going to be, you know, over a year and a half out, like, is now the right time for them to be going after literally every private server that pretty much exists? Because we know they've done it before Classic 2019. You know, they didn't want any competition with people stealing their stuff and potentially siphoning their subscribers. So it's kind of obvious, isn't it, why they're doing it? But yeah, what are your thoughts on timing?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think that I think the timing lines up perfect. Personally, like perfect, because they're getting rid of any version of a private server that is some kind of representation of a Classic Plus, right? Some kind of vanilla WoW with like the additional classes or zones or whatever. What people are expecting when they talk about a Classic Plus, and Blizzard's taking all of that down. Personally, I think because they're at the very least going to announce their version of Classic Plus at BlizzCon, right? And if there's other versions out there, that gives, the people that, like Tello was saying, are on the Blizzard hate train, that's going to give them the option to be like, oh, I won't touch that garbage. I'm playing Bronzebeard or I'm playing Turtle WoW or whatever. Now you're not going to be able to say that because they're not there anymore. So if you do truly want to try a Classic Plus experience, Blizzard's option is going to be the only option. And I think that, in my opinion, they're doing what they need to be doing, and what they should be doing is just taking them all down and being like, hey, this is our game, this is our version of it, and if you're going to play it, you're going to play this one. And that's not to say that eventually there's going to be more spin-ups and more spin-ups of Classic Plus iterations, but I do think the timing lines up perfectly with it, at the very least, an announcement, right, at BlizzCon of Blizzard's version of Classic Plus. At this point, if we don't get a Classic Plus announcement at BlizzCon, I don't know what's going to happen with the player base and me in general. Yeah, I have no idea what's going to happen. So...
I think I know where I'm going. I'm going right to Guild Wars 3, bro.
Oh, man, dude.
I'm going right to Guild Wars 3, and we're making S-tier videos. I have no idea at that point. Or the best class in Guild Wars a week in.
We'll get an announcement. I'm like almost certain that there is going to be at least an announcement. So there has to be, right?
Yeah. We know.
Yeah.
We just know, don't we? It's
yeah.
not.
It all lines up.
It's up for debate.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. I think honestly, if they didn't give an announcement, it would be stupid. But obviously, if they do, right, or more than likely if they do, like what Hammer said is right. No matter what, you can't have people acting around you. In any competition that's like trying to stir away from something that is a potential big show for them this year.
Yeah.
I understand people hate, you can have all this hate for Blizzard in the world you want, but no matter what, it's still their vehicle. You can say, oh, but the original people have left, but not all of them are truly gone. There's still like some here and there, that are in the company that were from the original team. They're just not in those positions of power anymore that where they once were. They're in different places. But even then, at the end of the day, it is their material. I know it sucks to say that. People hate that word. They're like, oh, you're just bootlicking, you want the rich getting richer. They're the ones who created it. Even with TWoW, as much as I love Turtle WoW, down to my core, I have a really deep connection for loving that game and wanting to play it so much more, even past the limitations of where we went. But I realized that was their material still. At any time, anything could have been shut down. You have to realize it was temporary. It's just their stuff. And maybe these other private server companies, what they can do is thrive and make better other versions of games that are not WoW related and take their talents elsewhere and do some cool stuff. And that would be awesome. Like, do some original ideas. I love original stuff. I think every gamer wants to see an original thing when it comes to making a sick new game in an RPG element. Awesome. But in terms of like Classic, yeah, Blizzard doesn't want to have any competition outside of worrying about a couple private server Andes and then a movement happening with 100K people, and then also at the same time worrying about the future of other games like GTA 6 and all that stuff. Like, they want to like actually have their own month, their own lane. So I can't blame them for that.
Yep.
All right, cool. We'll move on from that anyway. That's that's what's happening. I think it's kind of obvious for everybody watching / listening that it's all gearing up for an inevitable Classic Plus announcement, and I think it really indicates what we should expect from it a little bit as well, just based on the servers that they have gone after. And I don't think all of our guesses and our speculation we've done since this podcast started, I don't think we're going to be far out on most of the stuff, if I'm completely honest.
I agree.
So,
Sure.
Yeah, fingers crossed. All right, I know it's a TBC and Classic Plus podcast, but I just want to bring up MOP very, very briefly, and we will be brief because I want us to have a look over the general numbers that are currently playing all the different versions, that are available. And I've sort of been I'm not going to say concerned. Concern's not the right word, but when you look at some of the population, specifically MOP, where do they go next with it? As in, I'd be really interested to know what your thoughts are, because at the moment you've got a player base that Some of them, like me, all the way up until phase 2 of MOP, I would have been included in the group of people I'm talking about. But they've been playing since 2019.
Right.
You know, on their characters and going on and on and on and on and on. You know, like every expansion, every phase, and now like MOP is in its final phase of content. You know, the more hardcore guilds have already cleared all the content, and it's now just like, well, what's next? Is there any point farming Siege of Orgrimmar? Is it like, is it going to turn into Era and no one's going to play it again? Like, what? Where do you think they go next with MOP?
I'll be honest with you, Scotty. I think that what we're seeing right now is going to kind of culminate into some kind of like perfect storm again for the release of Classic Plus. I do personally think that they might just end MOP, and like make an Era server. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, it's far out from like a vanilla Era server. It's far enough where the game is completely different. It's like a middle ground between retail and vanilla. I could see them doing like an Era server like that and just kind of ending it. Like, the problem is to be like, where do they go from there? I don't know, because if they really are going to announce Classic Plus, like they also said this, I think, back in that State of Azeroth last year, that there's a lot of versions of WoW Classic and they want to condense them, right? They need to find some way to bring at least the majority of the player base back to like one version of Classic. And I think that like moving from MOP into WoD or somewhere else goes against what they said that they want to do, right? And I mean, I guess I could see them going to retail, but I feel like that would piss a lot of people off. But I don't really know. I don't think there's like a right answer to this. I think that kind of no matter what they choose to do here, like someone's going to be upset, right? And if I was Blizzard, I'll be honest, I really don't know what I would do with the end of MOP.
I think it's tough, and like for me, it's the communication, like which is going to sting more than anything. You know, if they like the MOP player base shouldn't be waiting until BlizzCon to find out what's happening. They should know now. Yeah, like they should be told immediately that, look, we're not doing WoD. This is the end of the line. There'll be an Era server like of MOP, whatever. Like there needs to be a line drawn in the sand sooner rather than later, because people are going to be farming. You know, there will be people thinking that they're going to get WoD Classic because it makes sense. They've done every other expansion. I don't think they're going to do it, but you know, there will be a lot of people that currently play MOP and they're probably so attached to all of their characters because they've been on since 2019 that they're like, there's no way these are going to go anywhere. And I think dragging it out until September, or dragging it out until BlizzCon, for then to have been farming Siege of Orgrimmar for 3 or 4 months to then be told that's it. Yeah, I think that's a bit shitty.
It is, yeah. I mean, but you got to look at it like this, right? How many people are still raid logging on MOP right now? It's like probably 50, 55K.
Raiding, there's 50K-ish, yeah, that are specifically raiding. I'm looking at just the raiding population, because the arena population on MOP is obviously pretty minor anyway. Yeah. But, you know, in the lead up to Siege of Orgrimmar, it was like 34K. It hovered between sort of, 40 to 50, I'd say.
And now it's okay. So it's like 55K.
But it's dropped off heavily, obviously. You know, it was a couple of 100,000, wasn't it? Or 150,000 at the start of MOP, you know, and you're now just down to like 50K.
And yeah, but here's the thing. They could be thinking that as well. I mean, look what happened when they finally put the announcement out that they were stopping development on Season of Discovery. People were going crazy in Scarlet Enclave. It was a blast. And the second that they put that announcement out, like, hey, and it wasn't even like a super bad announcement. They were just like, hey, we're moving on to work on basically Classic Plus. We're going to be stopping development from here on out on Season of Discovery. And the second that went out, it just, it changes something in your brain. You're like, most people were just like, oh, all right, I'm not going to waste my time anymore. Boom, unsub or whatever. They go do something else. And like that, and like you said, it does sound shitty, but at the same time, they might be wanting to like kind of avoid that. But 3 months from now is BlizzCon, right? So that's a long time to just leave MOP players sitting in the darkness, like wondering what the hell is next. So I would hope that they get some kind of clarification on either an Era server. I mean, obviously, I don't think they're going to announce that they're going to do WoD in like a blue post, right? So like that would have to be like an actual announcement, I think. But yeah, it would be. Yeah,
it's
weird.
It probably should be. But...
Yeah, it should be. And the problem is Siege of Orgrimmar is out and BlizzCon's still 3 months away. So you're right. Like it's a pretty shitty situation for MOP players, and I kind of
Yeah,
feel
there's
bad.
literally nothing else.
Yeah.
You know, it's not even like RAF. You know, if it was RAF and you was doing ICC, there still is Ruby Sanctum. As
Right.
much as nobody likes it, and you know, we all know that that should not have been the last raid of the expansion. But you know, if there was at least one of those one boss
Yeah.
phases or something that was left, you know, they'd be able to drag it out by a bit of time. But for me, Siege of Orgrimmar's not Siege of Orgrimmar, Mr. Pandaria is done.
Yeah.
It's finished. You know, like to not know what's going to happen for a few months is, well, I just think it's shocking.
Yeah, yeah. And it kind of sucks for the people who really have, like you said, been playing those characters since 2019 and they've played the whole progression. They're at that point right now. They're like, whoa, I've been doing this the last 6 years. What is next? Like, what am I doing? I don't know. Maybe.
Well, if you remember a couple of weeks ago, do you remember when I said, when we was doing at the start of the podcast and we was talking about, what we've all been up to, and I said, I'm going to go and try mop out again. I'm going to just like level them up, like gear my monk up, and get into Siege of Orgrimmar.
Yeah, yeah.
I tried, and I went into Celestials and everything, but the thing that was niggling me was, I don't know what the point of this is.
Yeah.
As in like, what is the point? I'm going to put loads of time into it for, just to, don't get me wrong, raiding's fun, but it is when you're going back, like having missed 3 phases, it's a lot of effort to catch up.
Yeah.
For them, maybe a couple of Siege of Orgrimmars, and then they say, right, there's no more expansions after MOP, and the game dies overnight.
Yeah.
So I had that in the back of my head. I don't know. I just think speaking for the MOP player base, not myself, they need information sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Anything on that, Tello?
I was gonna say, I think one of the two things I identified, like even from what you guys were saying, and just forming ideas in my head too, and even just checking out Ironforge as well. I think one of the biggest problems, just looking at this graph alone, the biggest issue with this graph too, because it's funny, I used to before I was doing World of Warcraft, I worked on like graphs and charts and Excel sheets, so like just seeing like numbers go up and down is kind of fascinating to me. And when I see this graph, this is a steady 50 to 100K plus player loss a year graph. Like you just look at this from the state of even 2022, going into November, like this is 600 plus K player peak. Fast forward to 2026 in this era timeline, we're at 55K players, and this is raids plus arena, this all-time overall population. That's a really bad decline of like just player loss. And it's not to say that the game is bad either. It's just, I think what happens is that us as human beings, we get tired after a while, and doing the same thing over and over again. And the biggest problem, which leads to the Classic Plus conversation, is the issue with the style of where the game went and how the game was always created. And it was based on the theme park genre of how World of Warcraft was structured as an MMO. It was a very theme park style, get in, get out, have fun. Oh, you don't make it one week, you'll make it another week. You'll get that item, right? But I think the ultimate goal is to move away from that theme park, because like you said, Scotty, you found yourself doing Celestials. Maybe you were preparing to do the other raids and like push through the content, eventually getting to Siege of Orgrimmar. But then you find yourself asking the question, why? What's the point? What's the will? What's the motivation, the gas in the engine to want to move forward? And you look at other games that like have that different style progression. I'll use OSRS as an example. Obviously, gameplay wise, whatever, say what you want, different. But in terms of their progression and how that game moves, it never runs out of that fuel. That fuel is very long burned. It's like running on regular fuel versus diesel, in a sense. But overall, what I'm saying is that I just think that if WoW really wants to move past this like ladder right here, which is really, a bad indication of a dying player base overall, or at least a player base that it's starting to really flatten out. And then obviously maybe let's say a 1-year WOD happens, even if a miracle happens, what is that going to do realistically? At their last peak during 2025, they were around 197K, 200K players. Maybe that bumps up back to 180, 190 during a launch peak, or maybe it goes even higher. But that's going to drop off real fast in a 1-year hyper version of WOD. And then what are you going to do, garrisons again? I mean, listen, I get it. Like the content, the biggest problem with WOD too is that the content was too stretched out. It needed to be tighter so people can access the fun stuff right away. That was WoD's problem. But overall, even then, I think the ultimate issue at its core is the theme park genre needs to change for World of Warcraft. That's why I think Classic Plus is the future for whatever happens next, because if you change it from theme park to what like OSRS does in that genre style, not saying the actual gameplay, just the genre, you then have a person like Scotty and Hammer and anybody else having a reason to be like, you know what, man, fuck this tonight. I'm not going out. I want to play this game all night long. This is fun as hell. I want to feel that feeling again, like I was a kid, and just want to stay on past my bedtime and maybe not do that edit. I'll save it for tomorrow, and it is what it is. I need that feeling again. And I think that's a dwindling fire that we're all trying to find sparked in the future for all of us as people. Yeah.
And that is exactly it. It's when you look at any of these, like with WoD, if they release WoD, if you look at every expansion since WRAF, like WRAF, obviously its launch was massive, the most popular, but then Kata was actually still decent, but it was less than WRAF. MOP was what you'd probably consider decent, but it was less than Kata. WoD will be all right, but it will be less than MOP. Every there's been a drop off, like even
since
at the
WRAF,
peak
right?
of each expansion, which is that since WRAF. So surely they look at that and think, what's the point? But then it just is hard when they've got 50,000 people, even though some of those are being alts and stuff like that. Let's say there was 25,000 or 30,000 like actual individuals. Yeah, so that's a lot of people that are still invested in the game that potentially it's not going to go anywhere. But that's where it's always content drought. Everything, in my opinion, I think as you move on to MOP, it can be more difficulty as well. So, the fact that the raids are more difficult, guilds struggle more, but like using TBC now, I mean, SSC and TK ain't been out that long. I'm bored of both of them. I mean, they were launched in post-nerf. Like, they're just piss easy. They're not that fun to go and do. The only thing fun about doing them is maybe you get an item. That's it. You're not actually excited already, and it's only been a few weeks. You're not like, well, I'm not. I can only speak for myself. I can't say you're not. But, I'm not excited to go and do it. It's just, it's a raid night. I've got to go and do it. Yeah. It's like, TBC is going to, if TBC's already got that problem when it's on an accelerated cadence, and most people are already thinking like, well, when's Black Temple and Hydra will come in? And then once we've done that, if it's, ridiculously easy and we go in and then that's smashed out, it's like, oh, I've got Zola Man next. You're just always just like, just give us the next thing. Just give us the next raid. Like, that needs to like stop. And I think in all versions of Classic, which is where Classic Plus is the answer. Where, because the content that comes is going to be new, it's going to last longer. There'll still be stuff that you haven't even probably found the first time round leveling a character. Like it's new. That's it. I think we're all, or the majority of us, are just burnt out of the same old shit now. Yeah. Where it's like, all right, it's great, it's fun, you're playing with the boys. It's great when it's fresh, and it's TBC. The first few weeks are absolutely amazing. But there's only so many times you can recapture that first few weeks of a launch. Do you know what I mean? Before it's just like, oh.
Yeah.
I feel you.
I feel that completely, man. I think, if you asked me a month and a half ago, I think TBC was amazing and fantastic. If you ask me today, I'm like, it's pretty mid. It's just, it's fun. Like, I log on, I do my raid, and that's it. I'm not, like you said, I'm already ready for Black Temple and Hyjal to come out. And it's been, 4 weeks, 5 weeks? So I think, Classic Plus hopefully fixes that. It can't just be all about the raids and the end game, because if it is, this whole cycle is going to be the same thing too. We need a little bit of horizontal content, fun things to do in the world. This is why when we were talking about like what our version of Classic Plus would be, I'm a big raider, and raiding is my favorite thing to do in the game, but I do know that eventually it gets boring doing the same raid over and over again every single week. Then you level an alt, and you're doing the same thing. So now you're doing the same raid 3 times a week for 6 months straight. You're like, okay, we need to figure a way to slow that down so that it's not, you're not bored of it 4 weeks in. And like you said, stuff will be new, right? So I think that'll absolutely help with it. But as far as TBC for me right now, to be honest, if they closed it down tomorrow, I'd be like, all right, I'll play whatever. What's the next version we're playing? You know what I mean? Like, I'm good. Let's wrap this shit up. Like, I'm good. You know,
I am the same.
Yeah. Like, it's sad to say because I spent all of Anniversary like in the TBC waiting room, and I'll admit it. I'll be completely honest. I played a lot of Vanilla Anniversary. I rated a lot of BWL constantly every night on every character, but I thought TBC was going to come and I was going to be like gung-ho 7 days a week, TBC, blah, blah, blah. And I was for a few weeks, but now I'm just like, yeah, all right. Is Wrath coming? Like, if Wrath comes, next week, I'd be happy with that too. So I don't know. It's weird, man. But I've also done this every time.
Back to some of the issues.
Yeah.
It goes back to some of the issues that I brought up at the start. It's like, there's nothing wrong with TBC. It's a good game. Like the content's
absolutely
decent. The heroic five-mans, they're good and all of that. But when there's so many sort of reasons to not do ults, to not raid on ults, to not even go and do heroics, there's so many reasons to actually not play the game that is easier to just not play the game.
Yeah, correct. That's why I've been on hardcore.
That's
yeah.
how
Yep.
I'd like a mage. I said I wanted a rogue earlier. I'd love to have a mage and a rogue, even if it was just to do Kara each week. But, even with things like doing Kara and it not dropping badges, it's something so simple. Do they not realise how many more people would go and do Kara if it dropped badges? I'd go on all my characters, and then add gems, raw gems to the badge vendor. So you can buy gems, so you can raid Kara and potentially just trade all your badges in for 2 gems. So then when you do get an upgrade, it's instantly cheaper. They're all such basic things that they could do that would, it would fix it for me anyway.
Yeah, I agree.
I was gonna say, it actually circles back to the conversation we were having earlier, and it pays homage to it. How we were talking about how players in EU with Season of Discovery and what they're doing and creating these new events. When you think about it, what are they really trying to capture? They're just trying to capture that feeling, that essence of wanting to feel excited about something again, the reason to log on and hit the stream button, or just log on Discord with your friends or your mates and just like have a good time. That's what they're trying to capture. It's not about the obviously we know all the content that's already in the game, but I guarantee you, in like, let's say 5, 6, 7 years down the line, doesn't matter, they announce Vanilla WoW again, people are going to be excited again. You know why? Because it's not because it's, oh my gosh, we got to go through every single raid and the attunements and all this BS. No, it's because, dude, that first 10 to 30 levels, that shit's going to be a blast with the boys. We haven't been on Classic in a minute. It's just the feeling, it really, that's the ultimate thing here, no matter what. And I just think, Classic WoW does a great job at doing that, but I think it's up to the developers now to realize you do a really good job during the leveling process, but we severely need to improve the end game quality and what people can do towards everything outside of just the raid log fiesta, because I don't think the life of WoW players should be based on Warcraft logs and Ironforge Pro. It needs to be based on living in Azeroth and how Azeroth is the content we always tune into every day.
Well, it's not even like, just off the top of my head, because I agree 100% with everything you just said. And, it's how they be smarter about the level 60 content, where it isn't just, oh, here's a new raid, here's a new dungeon. It's like, cool, we've done loads of those before. Like, it's probably going to have a mechanic in there where you stack, and then there'll be another one where you have to spread, and there'll be another one where you have to move away from people. Like, we've done it. We know everything that you're possibly going to put into those. But if they added a content patch where, all right, cool, it's got a dungeon, it's got a raid, but it's also got a zone. There's a new zone. It's I don't know, called the Barren Lands, and you go there, and it's a group zone. The whole zone. You don't go there and quest on your own. It's 5 level 60s you want, because everything in the entire zone's elite. You can't get anything done there on your own. So now there's quests there and dailies there where you're forced to actually group up with people to go and do them, and like something like that, where it's like, that's cool. Like, it's just launched, and it's not a dungeon. It is just a zone, but you feel like you need people with you. Where it doesn't always have to be just, oh, end game content is raids and dungeons. Seeing some outdoor shit as well would be cool.
Absolutely.
I beg of it, please.
Yeah, but we'll see. We'll see. As we get closer and closer to BlizzCon, there's probably going to be a massive leak at some point. There normally isn't there? One that turns out to be legit. So fingers crossed.
Hopefully. We'll see.
All right. So, I've mentioned BlizzCon. We've spoke really briefly. I keep saying for all of these topics really briefly, just 'cause I don't want to drag tonight out just on the basis that we ain't really got that much to go over. How do you feel the population on TBC is going to go over the next few months? So, with the fact that more and more people are raid logging, I said right at the start where, really phase two is a new phase. There's all this new stuff, but ultimately there's nothing. You're just doing two new raids, what we've done billions of times before. Phase three is literally phase two. There's just nothing's really changing outside of the two raids that you're going to do each week. Do you expect to start seeing a decline now? Do you start to see guilds struggling with like rosters and how do you predict TBC looking between now and BlizzCon?
Personally, I think you'll see obviously a little bit of a decline, like naturally. I do not think that the decline is going to be as big as people think, though, and the reason for that is because I thought there was going to be a massive decline in anniversary, right, when AQ dropped. And, historically throughout any version of WoW, whether it's a private server or whatever, that is the lowest where it like drops off, right? BWL, it like peaks and then it falls off in AQ. And that didn't really happen this time around. If you go back to the vanilla portion of anniversary, it peaked at like 100K raid logs. And then I think it like petered out around 70K, like was the lowest point. So as far as TBC, what did we peaked at like 330,000 logs? I would say at its lowest point, TBC will be maybe around like the lowest I could see it going would be like 280, 285. I don't think it's going to dip much lower than that because for some reason, the anniversary player base has been pretty strong throughout like the whole experience, even the vanilla experience. Like the people who are playing it are really enjoying it. So I'd say maybe, yeah, you could see like I would say a 50K player drop off with the summer coming and then people's guilds falling apart, all that stuff. And then, I think from there, it will probably just be a slow, like steady decline until BlizzCon, in my opinion.
Yeah, Tello, any thoughts on that? Because I'm going to throw something else in the mix afterwards. But yeah, just if you got any thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like the anniversary player base, everyone seems pretty active as far as like raids going. They seem pretty ongoing. There's always people active in the world chat. I don't really see Anniversary or Ironforge or any of these the representation of like the statistics that we're seeing really dipping really all that low in terms of how we saw the mop to player base from the original or at least the last version of Wrath. But I think that was a way differential compared to what we're seeing right now. It seems like this version, or at least these players right now, are hungry to continue playing TBC, and it's very active. Honestly, if you're playing the game consistently, even if you're not even doing raid days and you're just on the game looking around, people are playing. They are around. They're in the world. They're actually living through it. They're farming. There's people actively in the lands getting any materials that they're going after. I think that's a really good sign, and I actually have no negative things to say in terms of the player count dipping like 100K or 200K. I think I'm more in line with what Hammer is saying in terms of it just being still good. And you got to think about the holidays. Once the holidays are around, and depending on where we're at with the content, then those numbers are probably even going to go up a little bit more. It might even, like succeed or exceed the expectations of what we're thinking here of it dipping. I think it might even actually go up a little bit more. Maybe not crazily, but in a sense, once we're out of even Black Temple and we're out of Hyjal and we're making our way to like Zolomon and stuff like that, and then around then, I think there's good potential there for the game to still be good. And then if a RAF announcement does happen down the line, I think that the line just goes up. I think it stays up for a good amount of time, honestly.
Yeah. If they announce RAF, that's going up.
If that's what I'm saying.
Oh
So
yeah,
like
100.
I do think at that point though, if no RAF announcement happens, then obviously you're gonna have player drop off. That's just natural. It exists. Player drop off is gonna happen, and then that player base will kind of represent what like Mop's like right now, where it has like a strong core 55, 50K, very small arena percentage of people that are still dedicated to the game, and the servers will be active.
Well, it's quite hard to compare Anniversary to like TBC the first time round because we're now on our third go round. So naturally you would think that there would be less people interested, and it was pre-nerf raids back then as well. But basically, the point we're at now was the peak of TBC in 2021. So it was the highest. The amount of players, a couple of weeks into SSC was the highest that it ever reached in TBC, which was about 400,000. Now, that only dropped drastically. Now, some of that could have been raid difficulty. That could have been because people couldn't kill Vash, so guilds started falling apart. We
True.
could see an opposite effect almost, where actually it's all so easy that people start getting bored. Because I see that. I raid in 2 guilds, and I see it in both.
Yeah.
The people are a little bit like, most of the bosses are just really boring. There's only them few bosses that are at least even remotely interesting. But yeah, it went from sort of 400,000 and then, moving towards Black Temple releasing, it was even as low as sort of 300 and say 300, say around 300. There were dips actually lower than that, but say 300, it lost 100,000 players between a couple of weeks into SSC and then going back into Black Temple. And kind of never got those players back. That's like when I say never got them back, didn't get them back during TBC. I'm sure they all came back for RAF, the same way they would all come back for RAF now. That's more what I was looking at. I was looking at that chart today thinking, this is about the time where if history repeats itself, we would start to see a dip. How big that dip is, who knows? But again, it is very hard to predict that because of how different things are. With post-nerf raids, I could be completely wrong, and the vast majority actually just love the fact that they're post-nerf and they want to do them for 3-4 months and, they'll be happy all the way till the end. But I'm just hoping it don't have the opposite effect.
Yeah, I think that's a good indicator, too, when you think about it, because since it is post-nerf, since we do have BlizzCon, since the timeline we're in has changed, now you're looking at these graph lines and you're saying, if it follows the same thing what Scotty was just saying, and it goes continuously down, and then it just is a big spike because of RAF, then that'll give Blizzard a new expectation on how they move in the future, to be honest, because of those statistics. But since it is post-nerf, and I think people actually like the post-nerf content, I don't see them not doing post-nerf Black Temple Hyjal. Like, at this point, you got to, because people are still playing your game. I just think the numbers stay up, and they realize people don't want hard content. They just want to form groups and have fun doing the content.
Yeah,
that's just the classic player base, to be honest. They don't want hard content. If you want hard content, just go play retail.
And people still struggle, you still see people fail to SSC and TK on stuff. So it's not, it's not. It is easy, but it's approachable. But you still do need to pay attention.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Jerome is still doing
the
10
level
hours.
Of difficulty.
Did you know that, Scotty? Jerome is still doing 10-hour Tempest keeps. I'm not trolling, by the way. Literally 10 hours.
Yeah. Ours last night was last night was about 48 minutes, I think. Tempest Keep.
Yeah,
I'm not saying we were zooming or anything. I'm not speed running guild, but I mean there is only 4 bosses to do.
Yeah, 10 hours, Jerome.
Sure, that's not enough. We got to up those numbers. He's a rookie. 15-hour TK.
I think Jerome is secretly trying to see how long he can make these raids take.
I think he's also trying to see how far he can make the WoW players snap.
Yeah, it's all a mind game.
Mate, I'd be bored 2 hours in and just leave. Honestly.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd hard shut the PC off. I literally would hold the button down. Like, I'd just go to bed.
Same. All right. So the last thing I want to just go around the table and see what people's thoughts are. So based off of everything we've spoke about over the last 6 weeks, however long we've been doing this, and taking everything into consideration where we are today, with MOP coming to the end of the road really in terms of phases, the only way forward for it is Warlords of Draenor. Looking at all these private servers being shut down, especially and most notably now Ascension, get some early BlizzCon predictions in. Mm-hmm. So I'll go last because I already kind of know what mine are going to be anyway. Which one of you would like to go first? We're locking these in, and then we're going to see in September. Okay. Yeah, we'll have our post BlizzCon episode of the podcast, and we'll have a look back at what our predictions were.
Good. I like that.
Okay.
That sounds good.
All right.
How much?
Yeah, sure. All right, so my predictions. outside of World of Warcraft, my predictions are going to be. I do have a feeling that what we were talking about weeks ago is somewhere on the table, and that would be Blizzard getting into this like the new age of like these like hardcore looter shooter style RPG games. I think we're going to see something like that from Blizzard, whether it's StarCraft or a brand new universe or something. I do have a feeling that we might see something like that get announced. So let me lock that in as a outside of Warcraft genre of game. And as for WoW Classic, personally, I think that we are going to see them end the classic progression realms. Like MoP is the end. I don't know what they're going to do with that, but I do know I have a feeling that it is going to end. It's not going to go to Warlords. I think we're going to see a major condensing of everything that we have in Classic currently, like all the hardcore realms. I think they're going to merge those into one hardcore realm. I think they're going to kind of do this like clean sweep, and they're going to announce this all with the Classic Plus announcement. And we're going to end up with like Classic Era, Classic Plus, hardcore is part of Classic Era, and then potentially TBC and Wrath era servers, with like a rotating fresh every 3 years or something like that. For some reason, I just have a feeling that maybe that is what we're actually going to get. And I would say that is my prediction. I think we're going to get that Classic Plus announcement, and I think Classic Plus will be in beta shortly after BlizzCon and launching in Q1, Q2 of 2027.
Cool. Cello.
Yeah, I think off the rip, that's kind of the first thing what Hammer said. I 1,000% agree with. I think we're gonna see something with StarCraft, big time. I think also the stars are in the line for Blizzard to do what they do best, sorry, and take an idea from someone else and just make a better one. That's what Blizzard does. They 100% do that. They see an idea, they take it and make it 10 times better. And I think, for example, Bungie right now, which is another company, they are completely falling off. Marathon is doing horrible right now. And if you saw the Game Awards for the past couple weeks, the chat was spamming Destiny 3. They were ripping them apart to the point where Destiny 2 has almost close to 200K players right now, and Marathon has 40,000 or maybe lower. It's bad. And Bungie doesn't have that in the works right now. There is no Destiny 3. So that game right now is missing in the world of the ecosystem of players. Mm-hmm. Blizzard has a perfect opportunity right now to do something sci-fi based, FPS based, and MMO based. StarCraft is on the table for them. They already updated the art on their website with some potential new StarCraft art, so that, teaser is kind of there. We'll see if it happens. If they decide to put that gear into 6th gear and ride it all the way, hit the gas pedal, no brakes, I would love that. I think a shooter that is unexpected for people, that's an MMO and a sci-fi thing, bro, sign me up. No meta that's been figured out for 20 years with macros and weak auras and Zyborg guides, and check out the Rested XP link, which maybe you guys should in this podcast for all of us. But outside of that, I think that would be insane. But as far as other games, I think we're probably going to see another Diablo expansion or announcement. They've been doing really good with Diablo 4. Lord of Hatred has been doing amazing. More mobile games, I'm assuming. We saw from the last State of Azeroth, there was a lot of mobile games that they're trying to go into there. So, of course, you're going to see the mobile games. I know nobody likes it, but it's just the truth. It's Blizzard we're talking about. I don't think they do anything in terms of the BR scene. I know the last thing they did was, Plunderstorm? If you guys remember that?
Oh, yeah.
With the whole Plunderstorm. Yeah, I don't know if they follow up with any of that during this BlizzCon. I don't see him doing that. Maybe some Overwatch announcements I could feel, and maybe, just maybe, potentially they do something with that dead game called Heroes of the Storm. I don't know. I really don't know, but in terms of new, I think the shooter is my number one thing outside of Classic Plus, obviously happening. I don't think we're getting it at BlizzCon, but I definitely think we'll see Classic Plus somewhere around mid-year of 2027, or even the beginning of the year. Potentially. But yeah, at that point, if they have any other announcement, maybe Wrath at BlizzCon, if anybody would be super excited about that, I don't know. But that's all I really got in terms of what I think Blizzard is going to pull out.
Okay. All right. Time for the super unpopular opinions. Yeah, other games, I agree. I think we'll see a fairly new, or an IP that's not been used for a long time, like StarCraft, something like that. I actually kind of feel like it would be, yeah, more of a survival game. A bit like, I don't know. I would compare it to something like Valheim. That sort of game where it's
Yeah.
not so much an MMO, but that kind of, yeah, survival, go out, get stuff, build stuff, like all of that. Which I think would be quite cool. I mean, me personally, just I'm a WoW geek. I'd love to see something like that actually in the Warcraft universe, because I think that would be like, yeah, mega. That would be so cool. Um, I don't think. Oh, right, so it's BlizzCon. So this is, I'm coming at it slightly different. I don't see them delivering bad news at BlizzCon, because that would be kind of ridiculous. So I would say that MOP will only be mentioned briefly, but MOP will know that it's hit the end of the road before BlizzCon.
Mhm.
So it will be done via a blue post, or a goodbye to the classic realms by Holly Longsdale, or something like that, in a nice, well put together video. And I do think it will go era for the foreseeable future, as in they won't just shut it down. It will be like SOD. We know SOD's not being developed. It's not technically an era realm, but it's there at the moment. But it could go at any point. They've not committed themselves to saying, oh, it's going to be here for 10 years or whatever. So I kind of feel like that would be the same, but I think that would happen outside of BlizzCon. And now for the something that you probably will call me crazy for, but it's kind of where I could see the classic team and the retail team kind of working together to deliver something that they know would kind of be a success anyway, just because of the retail side of things, and maybe please the MOP players. And that would be, they're obviously going to announce last time. Like, the retail side, they're
Yeah.
obviously going to announce the last part of the World Soul Saga
Yep.
and WOD Remix. Warlords of Draenor
Mm.
remix, so they can say to the people that, yep, look, MOP guys, we know you haven't got MOP anymore, but if you wanted to go on to Warlords of Draenor, we're doing Warlords of Draenor remix. The remixes are always popular. It don't matter what expansion it is.
Yeah.
Like, because it's not really the expansion, is it? Like Legion remix. All right, it was Legion and it was in the Legion zones, but it was retail. Yeah, it's like it's not the same thing. So while WOD may not be the most popular expansion, as a remix, it would probably be quite good.
Yeah.
For all the retail
Yeah.
players wanting to go back and get cosmetics and mounts and all of that stuff. And then that's kind of the way where the MOP players would have something to do. So that's like a gut feeling. I've heard nothing about it, seen nothing about it. I just think there hasn't been a remix since Legion Remix. They normally do announce one of those sort of limited time events. It would be a good fit and a good time if they was to do that. Outside of that, I don't really know much about Diablo. I don't play any of the other games, so I would assume obviously that they're going to have a panel. They're going to get some love. They're going to announce new expansions and all of that, But I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know about any of them. But when it comes to, so retail, I think a WOD remix and the last Titan. For classic, I don't think it's even going to be mentioned, as in TBC. TBC is not going to be finished by the time we get to BlizzCon. Like, we're only going to be in Black Temple. There's still going to be Zolaman and Sunwell still to go. I don't think they're going to commit to announcing Anniversary Wrath, even if they plan on doing it. I don't think it would be announced, because the game's nowhere near done yet. Technically, there's still 2 whole phases to go. So I don't think that'll be announced, but I do think Classic Plus will be announced. It will take up the vast majority of all of the Classic panel, the Classic Q&A, everything. I think it's all going to revolve around Classic Plus. I think there'll be a playable demo there, where everyone can line up, go and sit and play it like they did with Season of Discovery. I had Go. Go was at BlizzCon when Season of Discovery was announced, and I had him on stream, sat, queuing up to go on to go and play Season of Discovery for the first time. So I think Classic Plus will be there. It will be playable, and if I was to hazard a guess, I would say literally within 2 weeks of BlizzCon, it will be probably a closed content creator beta like it normally is to begin with, and then it'll expand out and out and out until we get to about January time, and I would say launch in February. I think it's going to be that quick. Have I missed anything? No, I think that would be about my predictions. As I say, it's BlizzCon. I don't see them standing up on the stage and going, "Mop, if you've enjoyed it, unlucky, there's no more."
Yeah.
They're not going to deliver bad news at BlizzCon. Any bad news, I think, will come out before BlizzCon, and because they've got to, aren't they? They're not going to do BlizzCon and not announce anything to do with Mop. Like, the people need to know before BlizzCon, and I think I do think it will get a video or something. Again, I don't even think that they're going to allow characters to move from Mop to retail. I know that's like quite a popular thing that everyone expects. I don't think they're going to go to that effort. I think it will just turn era for as long as there's people playing it. And that's it. Draw a line in the sand.
Mhm.
They've not committed to go all the way. This is what we've got to remember. I know we feel like we're entitled to it to go as long as we want to play it, but when they done Classic 2019, they never needed to release TBC. They never
Right.
needed to release Wrath. You know, everyone was saying we wouldn't get Kata. Everyone was saying we wouldn't get Mop. You know, it's kind of like there's got to be an end point, and I think Mop is the stepping off point that just makes sense.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
Yeah, same. I'm in the same boat. I just feel like it all makes sense to what you're saying, and Classic Plus has to have something, right? Can't have like what the hell is it? Like, or even like just in terms of BlizzCon, the event, like we have to know something. This event is filled with so many just things that we're coming up with, ideas, rumors. We don't have the possible idea what can it be, but the big one obviously is like, if it is Classic Plus, this is the perfect time this year to do something for it, because nobody truly knows. Not one creator I've even spoke to, like none of us, even myself, we don't know what the hell's going on. Like, it's the big mystery, and I hope it's a good one.
Yep, me too. Well, we're locking those in.
Locked
As I say,
in.
out of everything I've said, the only one that is probably a little bit out there is WoD Remix. But I just think if I was Blizzard, that would be the perfect remix version of the game to do
Mhm.
for the Mop fans that are going to feel very let down. Even if they did do a system where you can actually move your, once you've maxed one character on WoD Remix, you can move your actual Mop characters to it for the the time that it's on for, or something like that. But yeah, we'll see. Anyone got anything else? They're our BlizzCon predictions, and we'll all probably be completely wrong. And it turns out Blizzard are actually dissolving the business, and World of Warcraft will be no more.
No more WoW.
We'll all be free.
Oh, I get tired finally. Move on. Manage a Burger King. Great.
All right, cool. Let's go around the table. Tello, where can people find you?
HelloJTello. If I'm not yapping outside, I'm surely inside these four walls. HelloJTello on YouTube. I'll stream again one day. Been taking a break on streaming, but on YouTube mainly right now.
Have you been taking a break from streaming because, like, outside of raiding, there's absolutely nothing to stream?
I just don't want to stream the same thing over and over again. I'm just, I feel like I want to focus more on just, skits and film creation with YouTube and trying to evolve my content, increase my level of quality rather than just do the same thing over and over. I mean, I love TVC, don't get me wrong, but like you guys said, there's only so many nights where you're just staring at the same thing over and over and over again. And it's also summertime. It's beautiful. I like to go for some nice walks and, walk and talks and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. Cool. Hammer?
Yeah, you guys can find me over on twitch.tv/hammerdance and over on YouTube at youtube.com/hammerdancegaming.
Lovely stuff. And you can find this podcast being streamed live every Monday at 10 p.m. UK on kick.com/Scottejaye, where you'll also find me doing things I shouldn't be doing, and not like that, playing versions of the game that I perhaps shouldn't be playing, and just normally having a beer, really. Having a beer. Pretty much it. It's my life.
The W.
So, on that, cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
And we'll see you on the next one.
Adios, amigos.
Cheers, boys.